Okay, so imagine you've been an E-Class buyer your entire life. Great mid-sized luxury car. So when the new generation came out and they announced there was a hybrid version for 2025, you were all for it. Efficiency and luxury, yes, that's exactly what I want. Maybe some air suspension. So how does it end up that if you're that buyer, you're stuck with the new E53 AMG? That's a good sign. Even just revving it in park, the entire car is shaking. Although very stiff, it settles like incredibly quickly. That's definitely a good sign. We have more than 4 cylinders. That's appropriate. So, new E53 AMG. Of course, yeah, the standard E450 is technically a hybrid. You could still get a hybrid if you don't want an AMG. However, that's just a mild hybrid system, 48-volt mild hybrid system. It effectively just helps with like stop-start. The starter runs off of it, and if you coast up to a light, it'll shut off the engine just before you get there. Things like that, right? Here is a completely different experience, and this is a trend that's been going on for a long time. Hybrids that have turned performance up to 10. So compared to the previous E53, which had about 430 horsepower, this has 577 horsepower, 553 pound-feet of torque total output. And when we do launch control with the optional AMG Dynamic Plus package, that's a $4,000 option here in Canada, that gets you up to 604 horsepower just for those few seconds, and it is very short, 3.8 seconds 0 to 60 when you launch. So there's not like a boost button on the steering wheel you can hit at any point to get that 604, but I will say 577 horsepower, plenty. Yeah, that's definitely not a 4-banger. Nope. Distinctly a 3-liter turbocharged inline 6. Okay, this is as quick as your daily driver needs to be. The C63 kind of pushed the envelope, and I feel like AMG's learned in a very short amount of time what maybe people want out of a Mercedes, especially one with an AMG badge on the back that is not a V8, that does not have a V8, right? So immediately, it's incredibly smooth. It's not intimidating whatsoever. Like, I don't know, let's say an E55 AMG from 20 years ago, which was just rear-wheel drive burnout machine. You really had to have some restraint with the throttle pedal. Standard 4MATIC Plus all-wheel drive here, you do not need any restraint whatsoever. You feel as if you can put down the power at any given moment with no trouble, and so far that's absolutely been the case. So it's not just the electric motor that brings this inline 6 up to that power level. There have been some tweaks. The turbocharger's slightly different, and they're running 21 pounds of boost through it versus the previous generation's 16 pounds of boost. We do have battery hold. We can hold that battery and save our range for later, of which we have 69 kilometers or 43 miles, which is great. That's a huge amount of range, especially for a plug-in. We have DC fast charging as well, so we can charge in about 20 minutes from 10 to 80%. That motor puts out 160 horsepower, and I believe about 350 pound-feet of torque. So you still get that instantaneous boost of torque. And we have Sport, obviously, that adjusts a ride control, as AMG calls it, a fancy term for adaptive suspension, or Sport Plus, and that also puts our AMG Dynamics in Pro. So the ELSD, which comes in that Dynamic Plus pack, that gets turned up to 10. Same with the steering, it gets heavier, and it automatically turns on the augmented sound, which once we get past this traffic, we'll find out if it's worth it. Let's get a launch control going. We're gonna change the gauge cluster. Left foot on the brake all the way down, hard. And then right foot on the gas, and then let go. your kick. There are your transmission kicks. 604 horsepower. It's so much power. But overall, the hybrid system is integrated wonderfully here. In comfort mode, like right now, we're just cruising, constant speed, the engine will shut off, and we'll just cruise in EV mode. And when under a little bit of throttle, the engine starts up on its own again, imperceivable, almost imperceivable. If you were having a conversation with your passenger, or if you were the passenger, you would never know. There would be no indication to kind of take you out of just the cruising experience. I mean, if you look at a dyno graph, the torque curve is like probably as soon as you hit the gas, steepest ramp up, EV ramp up you'll ever see, and then just flat, flat, flat as the power just builds. I mean, that's what hybrids have enabled manufacturers like AMG to do, is just create a perfect power band, but without sacrificing the top end. It hides the speed so well. You look down at the speedometer, you're like, oh my, I'm not gonna say how fast I was going. And to put it in perspective, the GT63 Coupe, not the crazy hybrid with 1,000 foot-pounds, but the non-hybrid V8, twin turbo 4-liter V8, puts out the exact same 577 horsepower as this does with the hybrid system. So you are getting full AMG V8 power from an inline six. I can't be the only one sensing a little bit of a trend here, not only with Mercedes-AMG, but also with a lot of the other European manufacturers trying to build a sport luxury sedan with a hybrid system integrated with a traditional gas-powered engine. Look at Porsche, Bentley, and most importantly, BMW, the new M5. Come on, it's your favorite. It's the most culturally accepted and loved performance sedan on the market today. I'm being sarcastic, of course. Mercedes did the same thing with the C53 AMG. They came out of the gate with a ton of torque, a ton of power, but with a 4-cylinder. The balance of hybrid tech and torque versus gas-powered engines that we expected from a long lineage of V8 C63s was kind of gone, and you guys didn't really like that car either. I haven't driven one, but the E53 does things a lot differently. First off, it's got a much larger battery, so 21.8 kilowatt hours of usable EV capacity for just your daily driving, and then it always has a little bit of a reserve for that performance kick, right? The electric motor is also positioned in a different spot. So in the C63, it's on the rear axle with a 2-speed transmission. So at higher speeds, it will shift into that second gear. The E53, the electric motor is integrated into the 9-speed transmission. That means when you're driving in an all-electric mode, it will shift gears, albeit very subtly. Not only that, but the motor itself is a 120 kilowatt motor in the E53 versus the C63, it's 150 kilowatts. So there we see already the C63 out of the gate was built to just wow people, to make headlines and to be as high strung as possible. Whereas the E53 is just a little bit more subtle of an experience. The E-Class is a luxury sedan through and through. Is it a great AMG? Yes. Is it the best AMG can do with this generation E-Class? I don't think so. I know we're still waiting for the E63, which should push the AMG envelope even further, hopefully using a smaller battery to save weight while supplementing it with a much angrier and more powerful V8. It's an uphill battle turning luxury cars into performance hybrids, especially when efficiency and range mean an extra 800 pounds over the E450. To control that weight with the confidence the AMG brand has built legacy on requires compromise at the expense of your spine. Wow. It's just laser precise, especially on the street here. 295s in the rear, 265s up front. Grip is never an issue. It's not really something you think about. There's no kind of off-putting handling characteristics that make me not want to drive quickly. And while the steering's good, you know, it weights up. You get some load in the tires when you're turning in. You do get a sense of just how much weight you're throwing around here. The body control is great, but there's a trade-off, and this is where we see the E53 not being able to compete with the $200,000 sports sedans now that have those trick anti-roll bar systems that are able to have that incredible body control, but also completely iron out all the bumps in the road at the same time and shove the wheel down into like a pothole and then bring it back up, all that fancy stuff. Those cars are double the price. So down at this price point, when you're trying to squeeze the most performance out of it, the most agility, but at the same time get ride comfort, one of those has to give. And here it's the ride comfort. So in Sport Plus here, it does dial out a ton of the body roll. It's composed, it's smooth, it's precise, but it is a big vehicle. It feels it. It's only when you go back down to comfort that then you're like, okay, this is nice. But if you just get in the car and have it in comfort, you'll hit some bumps. You'll be in a conversation with your passenger and you'll get taken out of the moment because you do get those bumps that come through so suddenly. Maybe jarring is not the right word, but just know it's not, I would not use the word soft to describe the ride in the E53. I wouldn't be able to sleep tonight if I didn't throw AMG a bone and point out the E53 starts at $88,000 USD, and for that money, you're still $8,000 away from a base Panamera, which is down over 200 horsepower and half a second slower to 60 miles an hour. Now, I will say, the 9-speed transmission, in most scenarios, it's perfect. Smooth, seamless, and responsive. However, downshifts, they're a little bit lazy. They take a little bit more time. Yeah, they're a little bit snappier in Sport Plus, but it's just, don't expect this to make you feel like you're driving something that was made for the track on the street, because that's not the feeling I'm getting from the E53. And for AMG purists, if there is such a thing, I feel the biggest issue is effectively that, just how the character of the car feels when you turn it up to Sport Plus, because there is no race mode. AMG got rid of race mode, and with that, they also got rid of drift mode, which effectively would cut all the torque sent to the front axle and only send it to the rear if you were in a track scenario or whatever, in the rain, and you wanted to kick it sideways a little bit. Yeah, drift mode's gone, race mode's gone, there are no crackles from the exhaust, there's no kind of like, they took away a lot of theater, which makes me think a little bit about what the E63 is going to be. Okay, so we'll start out with the good. E-Class has amazing seats. These are not the optional sports seats. You have to give up the massage function if you go with the sports seats, which kind of sucks. I would not recommend you do that. I love this massage. They've got rid of all the climate control physical buttons. That's not new if you've been in the E-Class before in the first model year, or a number of other Mercedes S-Class as well. So there is that. Just know you have to bring up the full climate menu. If you want to adjust the second row, it's fine. It's not the worst. It just takes a little bit getting used to. And it does make the dash look really clean, especially with this wood grain down here when you close the cup holders, which still has this incredibly sharp edge here. I'm not sure what's going on there. Not the most practical usage of space here. The wireless charger's like stuck in there. So if you've got 2 drinks, it's a little bit annoying to get to. But aesthetically, it looks great. If you're a stranger to modern Mercedes products, here you go. This is, you know, the more glass, the better. There's a lot of reflective materials happening here. You can opt for the passenger screen. The center screen works awesome here. There are so many options. We'll get into that in a second, but at the very least, when you do get the AMG Dynamic Plus package, you get this steering wheel. They've changed this up as well from the last E53, so I can individually, on the fly, not only on the steering wheel with these physical controls, change my settings, but I can do it on the screen here. This interior is about just punching you in the face, almost knocking you out. Actually, I would say I've been knocked out at this point by the E53 at just information, flashy colors, like options. It is incredible how much they've stuffed into this car, and I guess if that's luxury to you, it's luxury. I don't use a lot of it, but it's there. Even now, the engine's not on, but I've turned on the sound, and it has this like augmented pulsing sound. So as I mentioned, no more race mode, but we do still have track pace. So make sure you're off a public road. You can do things like, hey, well, if you're at a racetrack, you can set your lap timer for that racetrack, and it'll time your laps that way. You can do a drag race as well, time your 0 to 60, that kind of thing, save all those. It also integrates with the dash cams here, which there are a lot. There's one right here, selfie cam facing me. Big Brother's back, just beware. But everything works kind of as it should. I just wish it was a little bit easier to get to certain things. It's got the Burmester audio system. This audio system is phenomenal. Not a ton of storage space here, but there's enough. Considering the amount of battery that is here, which is fairly large for a plug-in hybrid, the trunk space has not gone down. There has been no sacrifice in cargo space compared to the E450. The trunk floor is still really high. There's just no spare tire or anything underneath there. I do wish you were able to put your phone integrated maps into the center gauge display. You can't do that. But you can have native maps that takes up the whole screen. That's great, but you just can't put your phone integrated maps into the screen. There's no software issues as far as I'm concerned that would prevent that because other manufacturers are doing it. Come on, Mercedes. God, these touch haptic feedback buttons on the steering wheel are so infuriating to use. The more I thought I would get used to them, the more I use them, the more I hate them. It's probably the worst part about using this car. This Patagonia red metallic looks phenomenal, especially in the sun. This car looks great. I don't know what you think, but the E53 does widen the track width up there, so the front fenders are wider. It's a little bit more aggressive. The front plate ruins it, but the grille's different. Of course, it does have additional cooling up there, additional brake cooling. These wheels, I don't always love aero wheels, but these split spoke AMG wheels look awesome here. They are 20-inch wheels. You can spec if you want 21s. I would not suggest it. The ride's already stiff enough, and it looks great. I love a meaty sidewall. I don't know about you guys. Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires on here, and 6-piston red calipers, these 6-piston brakes with the AMG Plus package. Those brakes are great. Steering rack's a little bit quicker, of course, than the E450, so it is more nimble on a day-to-day basis. It has rear steer as standard 2.5 degrees at low speeds to effectively just make the car more nimble and make it feel smaller, which it does, it helps. And then of course at higher speeds it goes with the same direction as the front tires. I feel the E53's abundance of power is simply a byproduct of a more efficient and quiet E-Class powertrain. Despite the challenges in controlling 5,269 pounds over the smallest of bumps, it's a worthwhile graduation from the E450 and a perfect stepping stone to a more hardcore and dramatized E63, which we're all patiently waiting for.